So let me just run a quick sound test. I positioned the mic slightly differently. Can everybody still hear me okay? Okay, that's cool. If there are any issues, then just shout me. It's actually the microphone's to my right hand side. And I'm looking slightly left, so I just want to make sure that everything's coming across as intended. How's it going, Arcade? So like for this stream, what I want to do is I want to make sure that this stream is also going to form part of like an educational video. So I'm going to keep the information like relatively tight. Obviously we'll still have a pretty interactive stream. I'm aware that viewer count may be down slightly because this is just kind of out of the blue. So I want to use this as an opportunity to put the stream on as an educational style video as well. The plan for this video is check what we're looking for when we're looking for alts, look at alts, and map out some plays, right? So it's basically, this is kind of alt focused. It's alt checklist. What are we looking for when we're looking to position ourselves on alts? We'll take a look at applying that through some current Binance alts. And then we'll actually sort of put together some plays that I will then pop up into the group. So you guys are essentially helping me by giving me a bit of company while I'm going through these alts. And then hopefully you'll pick up something along the way. Any questions that you have during, please obviously feel free to just pop them in chat. I'm sure that it will help out anybody else that watches this as a catch-up video. And obviously right now, just still keep my eye on Adder. 108 now that sell wall's at. I'm still trying to enjoy this coffee while it's hot. This is the daddy, right? For while we start off and I'm still finishing coffee, like this chart here, ETH BTC is the absolute daddy of what we are looking for to pop off. Just delete all this crap and simplify it a little. So for us to have a very strong run of alts, we need ETH to pop off. Major level is here, 22316. This region here is the one that has to break. If this region does break, then we're probably in for a pretty good run on majors. Right now we're caught up here, right underneath this supply region here. And that's where we're struggling to push through. Push through here, and we'll head towards this. And this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th touch. So we're going to be looking pretty good if we bust through this region here. In terms of BTC, I'm basically just watching to see how we react when we hit here. So 8620, see what happens once we hit that region. The chances are we come down and we produce something that's like this again. Another slow bleed down after tapping this. Which again is good for alts. We still want to see that ETH BTC pair rising. So right now, if you want to cheerleader something, cheerleader ETH BTC, because that is the kickoff. This is the ignition, right? And we need this to kick in. How's it going, XR? Welcome. Have you run your errands already? Are you yet to complete? Back already? Man. Didn't want to miss the stream. Alright, cool. We're I was just explaining at the start, it's going to be like, I'm going to try and keep it relatively educational focused. I really want to run through some key things that I personally look for when it comes to buying in alts. Given where we are currently, we're very, very close to having a good run on alts. Very close to having a good run on alts. However, if shit hits the fan and alts die, right, then this information isn't lost. This information is still relevant to how I will pick out alts. Because you'll notice when we go through the charts, like, I'm not really interested in anything that's made any major moves right now. So like when stuff's already done like 15%, sure, I'll look for entry. But what I'm trying to do is catch pre-15% moves. But we'll chat about that in a bit more detail. There's a couple of challenging things that you'll have when you're looking at focusing on alts a little bit more. Number one is how to manage your capital. Because alts are most effective when you can afford to designate a relatively decent chunk of capital to each one versus having to spread very small amounts across multiple alts. So we'll look at potential ways of doing that as well. And the other thing that we need to keep in mind is obviously the cost to us of BTC losing USD value. So even though we're gaining BTC on our alt trades, we are losing USD at the same time. So we need to look at ways of protecting our BTC value whilst also trying to accumulate more BTC. This 12-hour on adder is so important. Like into the daily close now, this is everything. This is the clear resistance line. 200 EMA. Okay, we haven't broken the 200 EMA bullishly since March this year. Okay, so just completely contained We're now breaking clear of it. Breaking clear of this resistance down the bottom. First target is 610. Some people have got 650 marked out. Right, and then after that we just start stepping stoning our way up. So here... I think the only thing I'd say about that, Jonathan, I would just slightly rephrase it, okay? I would say Adder is breaking resistance. Because we could easily have a close like this, right? That takes us back down under this line. We've got really good volume on this 12 hour. So what we want to see is we want to see a hold above this region. And then if we do, then for sure we're looking for this. Right, so we're looking for like a 16% move up to the 610 region. And maybe we can squeeze a little bit more. Maybe 20% in mid-range here is fine for wicks. But this is what we're very much keeping an eye on right now. Alright, so let's dive in. Coffee's finished. Let's go. Okay. So, what are we looking for when we're targeting alts? Well, first of all, it's going to depend on your system. So it's going to depend on what style of trading you have, what time frames you're looking at. But primarily, when I'm looking at alts, what I'm looking at is the 4 hour plus, right? So I'll leave it as that. Let's take this size down. Okay, so primarily I'm looking at the 4 hour plus is what I'm looking for time frame wise when I'm trading alts. I'm looking first at Renko. Okay, and what I'm looking at with Renko is AO, divergences, and hull. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for first and foremost. Time frame for this is 4 hour plus, with increased weighting for daily divergences. Okay, so if we're hitting some daily divergences, then I give that stronger credence. Obviously, that rises higher up in the rankings. So what am I looking to do when we're looking for this? So let's carry on here first. Second look is a candle. Major resistances with multiple taps. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. 4 hour plus time frame. My first call is Renko. So what does Renko tell me? Are there AO divergences in play on Renko? Are there any on the daily time frame? Okay, so what I'm looking for is the momentum being fully drained on these downtrends. That's what I'm looking for. What I'll do then is I'll look at candlestick charts, I'll look at 4 hour plus time frames, and I'm looking for resistance levels that are actively being attacked. So what I want to see is, and we'll see it on the alts when we look at them, is where we've got these bottom sideways ranges, what does the resistance look like above, and how many times have we touched it? And that's what I'm looking for. 2 or more touches in a sideways range. Okay. Okay, almost forgot one of the most important things in here, okay, and that's volume. So hand in hand with all of this is volume, and we'll see this with FET shortly. We are looking for alts that have either had a large increase in volume or that volume is increasing over the course of the range. That's one of the things that we're looking for. That's one of the key triggers that we look for, especially if we consider that these ranges may form some part of accumulation. We need to see there is active demand at this level to buy. And so volume is incredibly important to us. Then what am I looking to do with this information? So I'm looking to create a ranking list. So I'm looking at ranking the alts I see in order. Okay, so I'm looking at what gives me the strongest confluence and how can I rank them into strength of alts based on my criteria. And then obviously looking at setting alerts, and then I'm looking for monitoring breaks. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit more detail when we look at some charts now. Okay, now I've just released the document, so I'll just release the document in the educational content. So what we'll do is we will take a look through the Binance list that I have, okay, and we'll take a look at some of this criteria in action. And actually, look, let's add another one in here, okay. Let's add in oscillator status, because this has been a really key one for us lately. So we can look at this. So essentially this is what I'm looking for. And the oscillator status I've added in here, because I think that's quite important to me right now, is whether or not on higher time frames we're showing in oversold, we're showing indication of wanting to come up on time frames like the weekly, on the daily. It also gives a nice indication of where if a resistance point has been met and we're overbought, it gives a nice indication of when we don't need to panic into those situations and we can afford to wait for pullbacks. So that's a really important one in this region. It will also help instill some patience. We might actually just use RSI for this because I don't want people getting confused with the oscillator that I run down here. So I'll swap that over to RSI and we'll just base it on RSI for this. Any questions that anybody has up until this point? If we use an RSI, there's no way I can look at it in its current color. There's not a priority over the indicators, Arcane. They're all together. So there's no priority for me. If I had to pick a priority, it's volume over everything. But there's really no priority ranking for the indicators or oscillators. My only priority is Renko over everything else. But there's no weighting attached. Yeah, volume's above all, but any indicator. I'm only using RSI I'm using RSI to determine overbought or oversold conditions. Just because on higher time frame it's such a strong indicator. Like there is literally nothing that beats RSI for me. It's classed as this beginners slash noob indicator, and it's just the most untrue myth in trading. It's a fantastic indicator. Yeah, the backtesting is pretty simple, Arcane. I mean, you just stick RSI on a weekly and watch what the interaction is. What was the sample? This isn't like a back-tested approach that I need a sample size for, right? It's an indicator that fits part of a methodology. So it's not, I don't need to back-test a weekly RSI, right? Because I can eyeball a weekly RSI like I can on BTC. So there's no sample size that's going to give you the answer that you're looking for here. Right? This is a basis of determining overbought or oversold conditions. That's it. Right? So I don't need to back test that, because all I'm doing is eyeballing it to check what the conditions are. So it's not a sole trading. It's not the sole indicator for basing a trade from. So it just requires me to look and determine whether or not I think things are overbought, oversold, and then it gives me an indication of where we may see some sort of bottoming or where we may not. Right? Okay, so let's run through Binance, and let's take a look at some of this in action. So always the best bet for me is starting off on the daily time frame. That's kind of always where I'm looking to start off. I'll go down as low as the 4, but the daily is where I'm kind of looking to kickstart things. So let's get started with Ranko to begin with. Okay, so AGI immediately, nice flat bottom on Ranko. Okay, holding this region here around sort of 238, 239. Momentum dropping off. Okay. Momentum dropping off between these two peaks as well. So on the daily, this has already given me a decent indication to dive down deeper and take a look. Okay. I'm seeing a relatively flat bottom across this range. I'm seeing momentum dropping on daily AO. Let's take a look in 4 hour. Got this down here. And this here. Okay, so we've got these momentum divergences down on the 4 hour as well in the latest price action. So that's a relatively strong sign for me. We saw something similar in this region here. Okay, which then popped up. So at the time, this gave a pretty strong move in this region. Alright, 73%. But what I'm looking for here is we don't have confirmation of this being a divergence yet. Okay, we've still not printed our 2 positive bars down here. But then this is one that I would definitely, from what I've seen here, so the daily divergence is here with this flat bottom. The 4-hour divergence on the most recent price action. This is definitely one that I'd dive deeper on candles to take a look at. Okay, so let's take a look at candle. This was the low. This is when the lows were swept. There's nothing particularly strong on this. Some people may try and use this, right? But it's a pretty weak divergence to try and make across this entire range from here to here. The strongest divergence we had here was here and here. Right, which then played out. That was the strongest divergence we had in this region. So for me, let's dive to the 4. We've got one clear resistance level above, okay, which is around 388. It's where this move closed under, and it's where this move stopped. So 388 is a resistance. So we are technically at the bottom of any potential range here. Okay, so we expect like this to be the range all through here. There's nothing on the daily that I can play. The only positive thing that I think about the daily is it's over the midpoint here, so it's showing signs of wanting to continue to travel up. Four-hour reset really nicely. The other positive about the 4-hour is it reclaimed the 200 EMA. And then there's a local resistance level in here, which is around 298. How close off being mid-range is this? Probably pretty close. Yeah, okay. So basically there's the mid-range, there is the mid-range point. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with the interaction around that. Resistance here, support here, fall through, resistance, resistance, and now we're back here. So basically what we are with AGI, we're at the range lows here. We swept the lows, and now we're looking to try and make some move back. So one of the key levels for me, if we look at this, okay, I'm looking for 2 touches of resistance in a sideways range. So we have 1 touch, 2 touch. This would be the 3rd touch of this local resistance down here. Okay, oscillator status. Okay, so the RSI is above mid, and so we've got some room to travel up. Volume. Volume is relatively decent. Across this range, the volume is relatively high. Okay, ever since we've tapped here, this has been the highest volume for AGI in this region. What have we also seen in this range? Well, there's 1, 2, 3 large demand candles. So volume supporting the fact there is demand at these levels. Do we have any divergences down here? No, nothing that we'd like to play off. So right now, where does AGI rank on this? Okay. Let's start ranking here. So we can rank this as high, medium, and low. Okay, so right now, AGI is here. Okay, so for me, AGI currently fits into this low ranking category. We're at the range lows. Okay, we've had relatively decent volume in that region. What I need to do is monitor the midpoint of this. Okay, so I need to monitor here, 300. See what the reaction is off 300. I know that this resistance here has been tapped twice. So this would be the third test of this. And I know the resistance at 388 has been tapped twice. Okay. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'll set an alert for 300. And that's it right now for AGI. There's nothing that super excites me about this. This could be the bottom, right? This could be the bottom. But I'm not interested in it until it shows some significant signs of breaking out, right? Because the money's not to be made in this region here, okay? The money's to be made on this move up. So this may be more attractive once it clears this, okay? Then that might be an attractive play. But right now, the money isn't in it for me at this region here. That point also plays into how you manage your capital during a time when alts are running particularly strongly. Because if you're running with, let's say you've got one BTC on Binance, right? Just as a guide. Let's say you've got one BTC. In order to maximize from a move like this, okay, you probably want to allocate, like, let's say 25% to an alt. Let's say that looks like 23, but it's supposed to be 25. So let's say you want to allocate 25% to this. Okay, so 0.25. This may take, right? This may take until next year to do anything. So for me, I don't want to have my funds sat in something that looks as though it may take considerable time to break out of its sideways range. What I want is an alt that's pushing here that I can immediately capitalize on, like a 30% move up. Okay, that's how I want to spread my capital, which is the reason behind the ranking list. I don't want to get caught holding on to something that's going to take ages to move, right? Because I've already got that situation with RVN. Right, just holding on to something that's in a sideways range here. So where possible, I want my capital to be as fluid as possible. I want it to be in alts that are acting on volume, at resistances, and are looking to break through. So I can take my profit and reinvest in other alts that are now in the same situation. So during times that alts are doing well, it's about being fluid with your capital and ensuring that you can transition from alt to alt to alt as you've mapped them out. So this is staying in the low list. All right, any questions about any of the thought process behind that? AGI. It's not that the trend's upwards, right? It's more important that the trend is sideways. Right, that's more important. And if we look at this, okay, we're now above the 200 EMA again. So a lot of the time, sun on alts like this, okay, the importance isn't that we're trending upwards like this, right? The importance is that we're going sideways. So it's not about. So there's no demand regions on this that I identified, right? There's only supply. So the supply region would be here. But yeah, there's no demand regions down here. We're just naturally assuming that because of the volume in this region, right, like demand takes place across all of this, that people are buying in this region. And because it's going sideways, right, versus what AGI traditionally does is just trends up or down, right, we have to give significance to the fact that it's held up in this region. So volume plus the fact we're consolidating sideways means that we actively look at this range and determine where we can buy. And the thing is, right, is like it doesn't really matter, because either if it does this, right, then we're not interested anyway, because we're only interested if it gets back up to here. Right, so if it dies, then it doesn't matter to us, because we're not looking at buying lows. We're looking at buying on confirmations. And in terms of the trend, like we're above the 200 EMA on the 4 hour now. So if this was to move up, then the trend would be confirmed as up anyway. All good. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to BAT, because BAT's already in motion. So BAT's a really interesting one, especially on daily, right? So here's our divergence. BAT's probably a really good example of what we're looking to achieve. I think BAT is something that probably shows off the rationale behind this system and my process quite well. So here's a daily divergence on BAT. Okay, it flipped the hull here. Let's look at some values. Okay, so we did 80% down just following the hull. Okay, just following the color of the hull, we moved 80% down. Okay, if we take the positive run of the hull here. Okay. So in the positive run of the hull, we did 111% up. All right. And then we did 80% down on this run. So this daily divergence has been confirmed, right? We had the confirmation here of the daily divergence in play. We've now had the flip of the AO to the bullish side. Okay. So what we'd be looking for now is a run on this with the trend on the daily. So this is a really good example of where, when I'm looking for these divergences, BAT is a good example of where I'm looking to get on, which is on these confirmations on the daily. So like down in this region here, and then ride those. On the 4 hour, we've pretty much done the consolidation. Okay, this sell-off here is pretty much the consolidation. Dropped into a nice region down here. Okay. Pretty nice region down here. And we actually had a pretty clear divergence in terms of local PA down at this level. So here and here is where we saw the clear divergence on the move up. So again, this is a really nice example of that local PA like we're looking at on AGI. Local PA confirming that 4-hour divergence, and then we get the move off it, which obviously then played into the daily for the confirmation, and then this has been the flip of that region. So BAT's a really nice example. Now BAT's something that I think I may struggle to get in on, and it's also something I'm probably less interested in getting in on because I think there's plenty of other opportunities. Let's take a look at BAT on the candle. So BAT had a very clear region that was pretty much present on the 3-day all the way across here. Okay, so just above 2000 was a pretty clear region. Here's the lows, right? Break back above. RSI reset itself after this dip down and is now moving back up. I think that BAT will challenge towards the 4000 area. And in that there's 20% in it, right? But I don't think I can play this. The hourly's starting to look really extended. The 4 hours starting to look super extended. This would have been the original buy zone. This is going to act as supply. So right now, with BAT, what I'll be doing is I would just be looking for a retest of that 3-day region. Like, it breaks structure. But I think that if this is a lower high, then the low takes us down to what would be this 3-day consolidation region here. So one thing that we don't have is any retest of this. This is a very clear demand region here. It was the origin of this breakout move. And what we don't have is any touches back in this. So this price action is really strong. But we are extending. We're diverging quite heavily on 4 hour. 12 hour is pretty toppy. So I'd at least expect some retrace here. This level at 2831 is the area that I'd set an alert for. And I'd wait to see how we respond to a touchback down here. Anything below that, I'm looking for this 3-day region in here. So how do we rank BAT in terms of what we've seen on here? Well, it's certainly not a buy for us, that's for sure. We're looking for a pullback. But is it something that we want to assign our capital to? So if BAT makes it out of this region here of supply, right? We're either looking for two things. We're looking for BAT to come down and us get this move, right? Which is definitely a move worth taking. If we come down here, or even if we come down here. Right, then this is definitely a move worth taking up to this supply region. But if it hits supply region first, then we need to reevaluate and come back to this. The weekly actually creates a relatively nice level. depending on how greedy we are. But I think I'll keep that on as the 12-hour timer. So bat's quite a difficult one to assess, because it doesn't really fit the criteria of being at the bottom and trying to catch the move up. Okay, this is very much a trend in motion. And this is trying to catch a pullback. So I think for now, I'll leave the trigger in of this alert. And come back to bat when that alert triggers. So I'm going to leave it out the checklist for now. Okay, let's check out Beam, because this is going to be another very similar one. I'll keep the 4-hour because of the data. Renko divergence. Renko divergence. Okay, that was the bottom. Clear region of consolidation here. Okay, around 750, 760 sats. And then the push up above that. We can save this. This is a really nice example. So let's take a look at Beam on here. Start with the daily. Okay. So RSI is fine. Okay, above mid. Yeah, bad ATR on all alts. So Beam, pushing out of this bottom consolidation, retesting it here. Okay, really nicely. There's a level in here, right, from this original breakout. I'll use the candle closes in here. Retest here. Again, looking nice. Daily RSI says this is fine, trend in motion. Past mid, retested, looking for a push into overbought conditions. 4-hour. So the 4-hour, these levels are going to be slightly off, but they still do a pretty decent job. 693 was one demand region I was looking at. It has never hit. So there's really a couple of regions in here. We can get rid of this line for now. I really like this because this has had this Renko divergence, right, and the pop up. And this region around the 760s would put us here. So basically Renko says that we should come and touch this region. Okay, so checklist wise, AO divergences, yeah, we've already got one and it's already playing out and the hull is already green. Okay, second candle, what are we at? Well, we're going to tap into this resistance, which has been tapped once. And this is going to try and act as the support from the previous range breakout. Okay, we've had one touch of the support level here. Volume's good. Volume's strong all the way across this region. Again, look at the difference between this here, right, in October, to where we are now in the later half of October going into November. Like, look at the difference in volume. Huge increase here. We're above the 4-hour 200 EMA, and actually it was a pretty good resistance point here. So it acted pretty strongly as resistance up until the breakthrough, and then it's acted as support on this touch. Volume is still very, very strong. It's died off in this region. RSI is cooled off. Same with the 12 hour. I'd expect another tap of this region, this 917 region here. I'd expect another tap of that. But essentially this could just be caught here, right? Until this gives way. So I'm going to put beam in medium. It's had clean breakout runs, okay? So it's had clean movement between each of the levels. So when I say clean breakout runs, I'm referring to this, okay? We broke out, cleanly retested this, okay? Broke out, and now we're cleanly retesting this. So it's around 811. Okay, so that's pretty much it for beam right now. Again, it's one that I don't need to dive too deep into. I've given that enough of an overview on the higher time frames. I'm looking to see 771. That would be the ideal, okay? If I can see 771, then it gives me a decision to make, because that's confluent with the Renko levels in here and this major consolidation. And then the targets for this are essentially 917, 1000, and then up here into 1200s. So like overall, this is target. So we'll look and see how far this can run up. I'm also going to set an alert on this level here. Set an alert on this level because that level is also important to me at 917, right? Because as we're having the conversation about this checklist, okay, we're now starting to get our sideways range in the consolidation here above the previous resistance. If we tap into this again, that's going to be the second touch. And so again, that's going to be an interesting marker for us to go off. Okay. So that's beam. Is anybody interested in BNB BTC? Like, is this an alt people would look at playing? Nah, forget BNB. Nah. Scam coin. Anyway, BNB looks very strong. All right, that's all I'll say. BNB looks pretty damn strong. Similarly, it broke out of this bottom range here. Retested it quite a lot. Even came down to this very bottom demand zone right down here. Okay, with this wick, and then moved away strongly. It's above the 12-hour 200 EMA, which is a very strong sign for BNB. The first target would be 29849 if anybody is interested or monitoring BNB. I think there's relatively good upside potential to this, right? 27% up there. It will try and hold this now. Okay. This chart is like kind of similar to ADA, just taking place over a far shorter time frame. So I'll actually set myself an alert here so I can come back and monitor it. But this region here is the adder breakout region. Just tap, tap, tap. Try to get above, couldn't, big sell off, and then this is the come up and breakthrough. So any touches back down here, then it may be a position that I will consider. But I think a little bit more off this would be nice. Yeah, 4 hour certainly indicates that we could come down to this oversold region here, which would take us down to this 22667 region. Actually, I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that in here because I really like how clean that level is. Two two six six seven. I said I wasn't gonna. Well, I asked for opinion on BNB, right, and then I was just like, "Fuck you guys, I'll look at it anyway." I kind of got myself drawn into that one. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So BNB alert set for then. 4 hour RSI indicates that more downside is coming. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Adder comparisons in terms of range breakout. Looking for the retest of the... Do you know what I should be doing as well? I should be adding screenshots to this. So let's take the 12 hour. I mean, forget the group. I'll turn this into a newsletter like Cred and Donald. You guys are just joining me for the newsletter publication now. Shit. Okay, so that's BNB. We weren't going to cover it. We did. It's done. Whatever. Okay. CELR. Let's hop on Renko. Now I'm interested in BNB. Yeah, like never bet against CZ, right? Like same with Justin, never bet against. All right, CELR is nice, very nice. All right. So this is high on the priority list. I'm gonna tell you right now. Divergence is absolutely monstrous. Okay, just one continued divergence. Now if we zoom in, okay, we're seeing one bar printed here already, and we're looking for the second bar here. Okay, so we're starting to confirm this down in this region here. The hull is still red, okay, but we've tried a couple of times just to try and sneak, but we haven't managed it, and we're in the same position again now. Okay, so that's the 4 hour, looking very sleek. Daily divergence in play. Okay, so this is now the opposite of BAT. Okay, so whereas BAT, we already had this confirmation, right, where it crossed over. This is where we're starting to see this is one of those alts that hasn't moved yet, but is giving us exactly the same signals as BAT did. Okay, so divergence is here, divergence is here. Save this one off. So already I'm going to stick this in the high ranking. Okay, so let's take a look on candle. Alright, let's start with the daily. So this is our resistance, essentially 63. This has been failure, failure. Okay, 2 times here. We've got another local level that's down here. Resistance, resistance, breakthrough. But this overhead resistance has been tapped twice, okay? So the overhead resistance. So when I refer to overhead resistance, I'm basically referring to the first resistance it's going to encounter versus something that's 300 sats away from it. So the overhead resistance I refer to as the closest one. So that's at 63. And that's been tapped twice. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this take profit for now. In terms of the RSI, okay, we're over mid, so I like that. That's a strong move. What's the 4 hour look like if we dive down? Okay, so this level is nice. This is the daily. Okay, if I take the very obvious level here, how does that translate? Translates well there. So it doesn't translate bad as a support and resistance level on the 4 hour if I have to move that daily. And this would be a retest. Right, so this would be a very clear retest for CELR here. And I like this level because I like this level at 51 because of this. So this here was the supply point. And we saw that here. Taps in, sells off. And this is the origin of the move down into the upper 30s. So I do prefer this region at 51, which would make this a support flip, as long as this holds up. RSI cooled off nicely. Okay, good pressure up on the move, entering those overbought conditions, sells off back down to mid. Good volume increase as well. Okay, plenty of strong green volume candles throughout the whole of this range. And then look at the interaction down here. This is quite noticeable as well, because sure, big green candle, big green candle, big green candle, big green candle, right? All obvious in this region here. But in general terms, the volume has been pretty flat all the way across. But then notice what happens when we hit this region. Okay, this whole box down here has just seen a steady increase in volume the whole way across. So there's just more general volume across this entire region over the last sort of 5 days or so. We've just had a bigger build-up of volume. So I really like that as a sign that people are trying to put in work here. So what this means is that we're not just buying one massive buy. We're seeing consistent small buys in this region, which is usually a better way of trying to hide that you're accumulating something. Okay, because it's not a big obvious marker like this that says, I just bought 300 BTC worth, right? This is a far better way of trying to hide your intention. Okay, so if we consider this, 51, this is shaping up really nicely, right? We've got the daily divergence with the AO. We've got the 4-hour extended divergence. We've got the 4-hour support and resistance flip at 51. This looks really, really solid to me. So where would our targets be? Well, let's say, for example, we were to enter right now. We'd have our stop below this low. Okay, so that's fine. Our targets would have to be up into this region here, and I think we can take the wick. So I think I can take this candle close and this wick. This is going to be the third touch of this resistance. Okay. So far, that's a pretty healthy move up. Right, we're seeing like 17, 18% there. And then obviously if that breaks, then I'm going in hard for the 92 region. $63 and $92. But this is definitely on the high priority list. Because when that daily divergence goes, okay, we could see a similar play out to something like that, all right? We're not going to see, you know, like 10x on this, but we're certainly going to see a very healthy move up. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this structure with the 2 touches in the lower range, meaning this will be the third. And our third, we'll take the educated assumption this will break. Okay, so 63 pushing through. And then that leads us to this 92 region up above. So if this region breaks, then that's going to be above. We've had one test of a range breakout here, flip to support, hopefully. So this is really high on the list, like to the point that I will consider taking a position on this once the stream's done. And look at this volume here again, like just this beautiful little green block of just buy up, buy up, buy up, all the way across here. Like it a lot. Have we got enough data for the weekly? I mean, yeah, we've got enough data for the weekly. Yeah, I like CELR a lot. Alright, CHZ. Do I want to cover CHZ? No, I don't. I want to cover COS though. So let's take a look at COS. Daily is actually pretty disappointing, like very underwhelming. No divergence. It's not going to create a divergence here from this leg down. So we're basically just sat here on our lows. It's about the only positive thing is this double bottom. 4 hour. Again, nothing hugely impressive on the 4 hour. No divergence on the legs down. Just chop here. No strength. And again, the hourly not even looking that attractive either. Kind of an interesting one. Daily's not giving anything away. Like, this is one of those that could just pop out of the blue. But right now, like, I don't see anything tradable from this. There's a very clear support and resistance level here at 185. I think that the only thing that I can do is set an alarm for this. If I set an alarm and this goes off, then I can monitor it. I mean, it's had a few touches, but trash. Better options out there. Fuck. Let's set for 178. No confluence with any of the checklist. Christ, the spelling. Okay, so just nothing for cos. Unfortunate, because it's again one of those attractive alts that people tend to look at, but there's nothing there. Okay, Dusk. Any questions about anything so far? By the way, guys, let me pause for nicotine. If there's any questions you've got on anything we've covered off, then please just shove it in chat and we'll get to it. Look at that. No questions. No questions, no talking. I bet you guys weren't like this at school, right? Oh, here we go. As soon as I say that, 2 questions come through. Yeah, bad. The faulty TV, like the data pull doesn't affect us as much in this way. Largely because we are looking at a larger pool of data. So it doesn't tend to affect us as much. Plus, what we're really looking to identify, right, are these divergences, and the divergences typically don't change that much. So that's all we're looking to identify, really. Renko's giving us the identification of some of these divergences, right? And then we're using Candle to really fine-tune our entry. And a lot of the time we're seeing exactly the same thing we discussed on Renko being visible on Candle as well. So it's that confluence between the two, but the data isn't affecting us. And I look at Binance charts, right, because the history's longer. I look at Binance charts typically because the volume is the greatest, which is what I care about. Yeah. The biggest thing about alts is, like, we don't really have to get super crazy with our overview of alts. Like, alt identification is pretty easy. The thing that we have to remember is it doesn't matter if an alt goes 15% that we haven't looked at, because there's plenty of opportunity there. So what my system is designed to do is to try and catch some of these divergences on higher time frame and then play out these 20, 30, 40, 50% moves, all right, and then take profit off the table. So there's so many alts that we'll see in this current situation because of the structure of alts currently, right? They're all bottomed out. We're looking for these very clear divergences in here. And that's what this system is trying to give us a very quick overview to. Because scanning through all of these alts is hell on earth, right? To try and scan through all of these, really dive down into lower time frame, figure out if something's flip support resistance. Whereas if we can just eyeball something, like when we look at COS, right, we're just like, right, no divergences, nothing on candle, move on to the next one. It's as simple as that. So what we're looking for is a very quick overview, a quick checklist, right? What ticks our boxes, what doesn't. And they're the alts we focus on. And then hopefully, let's say by the time our CELR players come around, right, then hopefully Beam or BNB might be in a position to play, right? This may now have moved into a high ranking alt because we've now had this touch of support. Or let's say AGI, right? While we waited for CELR and CELR hit our targets, right, we then go back and we take a look at AGI and we say, okay, well, that divergence is now confirmed. We've now tapped that upper resistance 3 times and broke through, and now we're sitting at the top resistance. So this will just become our sliding scale now of what is of the highest importance, and we need to position almost immediately. Our medium term, and then our low. And what we expect is we expect to see high play out. Okay, we take our profits, we reinvest in these low that have now moved up to medium or high. And that's basically the logic we'll be taking throughout the next month or so. Yeah, and exactly, it's how you can begin to manage like these lists, because like this list is only a very refined list in terms of alts as well. Like this could be huge if I wanted it to be. Okay, so dusk is where we were. Okay, so clear support and resistance on dusk at 881. Renko shows that bottom, top, right? This here now is looking to diverge. Okay, so automatically we may look at putting this into a low category just based on this. Okay, looking to diverge, no confirmation. 4 hour. No divergence, clean trend. Okay, it's the low, lower low. Clean trend down. We've had a flip here, but we're going to flip again. It looks like bearishly here. There's nothing on Renko 4 hour or daily that would give me an indication I'd want to play dusk at the current levels. Dusk here. Okay, so very clear overhead resistance, 693. So let's start by creating this down here in this region. I think I said 693. Yeah. Okay, so that's the resistance point. 4 hour, nothing. Daily, nothing. Consolidation. Take it easy, son. But 693 remains the key level, okay? So we'll set an alert on this. I'm going to change that alerts area. 651. So we set the alert here. Overhead resistance 693. 2 taps. Important to note, really tight consolidation, but again, it's just continuation right now. Like there's nothing here that says play it. Okay, there's no divergences down here. This is just purely following price action. So dusk is one of those low priority, not interested. Could pop, but if it does, again, there's nothing I can do right now. There's nothing that in my system would determine that this is a play. This would just be a pure gamble on whether or not it can make a move. So dusk, done. ERD, not enough data to look at. It's simply if it gets above 30, then it probably enters buy region because there's a 2x in that, but I'm not going to focus on that at all. FET, super interesting one. I think FET and CELR are the top 2 right now. So I'm already going to start entering this in here because I know it. Right, so I know all of this information from viewing FET. So, first of all, daily, very clear divergence down. Very clear divergence down. Pop up, whole flips green. That's a good sign for us. And we've had this move to the bullish side of the AO. We had a similar play out in this region here, right? And we got this little pop. Right, and I say this little pop, but I mean, it still did like 30% up here. So we're now at the point where this is playing out, right? So we like this already. If we were looking at textbook AO, this would be our entry point right here on the cross. So we can take this, I'll pop this in here. How's it going, Jimmy? Okay, so then let's look at FET on candle. Okay, so the daily RSI topped out. Okay, first point that we need to look at. Daily RSI topped out. Therefore, I don't like entering anywhere in this zone. We're also at that resistance point. Okay, we're in the region of this rejection. So we're trying to catch this on a pullback. This alert for 545 obviously triggered today, and we had relatively decent buy up below it. I still think this has got more to go. 4 hour is coming back to mid, but there's a couple of regions on this that I'd like to see tapped. If I can get entry at 480 in here, that would be the best I could hope for. I've marked out this region in quite a large fashion, because there's actually a couple of points here, and there's a couple of reasons I'd want to see this region tapped. First of all, it houses the demand in here for the move up. This would be a higher low if we came back and retested this region, and it would also retest the breakout from here. Okay, so this region here is the support and resistance region. We've had the strong move up, and I'd really like to see movement down. Now I've got an area marked up just here, and the reason I've got this is this also has demand in it. Because of the strength of the trend, okay, and because of the volume that we've seen across this region, I'm also going to keep my eye on the 520 mark, because the 520 could have enough demand for this to push through and try and attack the resistance that's overhead at 604. So that's why I've got this region here marked, but ideally we come down to this box down here. Okay, so that's FET. Looks in great shape. The volume on FET is monstrous. Okay, just look at the volume increase. So when this runs, the targets are also very clear. There's going to be one here at 888, and then the rest is all going to be up here. So this is potentially a 3x play on FET. Matches pretty much all of the criteria. All we need is that daily to cool off. So we just need that daily to come down. Even if it wants to come down to the 50s, okay, here, that's fine for us. But we need it just to cool off a bit. Any questions on FET? Jimmy, the doc is it's the start. It started off as the alt checklist, but then what we started doing is ranking our alts. So we're basically going through all the Binance alts currently. We're using our identification system, which is here, and then we are creating alerts or areas of interest as a result of that, and we're ranking our alts into high, medium, and low priority alts. The findings of the alt checklist will be available for a small one-off fee of 0.5 BTC. Yeah, of course I'll share it. All right, so I'll throw this one over to you guys. This is FTM. Is there anything that interests us on the daily? Okay, I'll So, bad, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt not being able to see this. But it's actually continuation. So this is actually continuation down here. So this is not going to give us our div, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt not being able to see this slight difference in these. What about the 4 hour? Does the 4 hour give us anything? What do we think about the 4 hour? Does that give us any strong indication of this system that we're trying to follow, right? So where we're looking for these AO divergences. Does FET provide us with anything of interest here? Yeah, agreed. I don't think there's anything that that FTM provides. Sorry, here. Let's take a look at candle. So we had this really nice structure here that it broke out of and came and retested at the bottom. But we've kind of already got our levels in, right? So this is historic. So I've already got these levels in. Right now, RSI looks decent. Okay, we're over this 50, which is good. We've got a very clear level above us at 159, so I can just immediately set the alert there. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. Now that's a positive. Right, we've got this 3 touch. where haven't we tested? So we haven't been down here. But we'd want 141 to hold. So we can set an alert there. So we've got two levels. We've got 141, which is important to hold, and this will just become a dropout below the range. We've then got the area above at 159, which would be the fourth tap of the resistance. Okay, and then what we've also got is this area of interest below at 130 down to 120-ish, which is something that we broke out from relatively strongly, but haven't come back and retested. What would be the other noticeable thing to you about this chart? Using my indicators and oscillators as well, potentially. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's the big thing here, right? The volume is awful. There's just no volume coming in here. Volume's declining. As soon as this push up was made, volume just declines and tails off again. So there's just no interest right now. There's no volume coming through here at all. So for me, FTM looks like one of those that may just enter a sideways range for a little bit longer. What we did here is we swept the lows, which is good, but what we've done here is we've cleared out the last highs. So with this move up, we cleared out the highs. With this move down, we cleared out the lows. So this is just back into a sideways range. So this is absolutely in the low ranking. So FTM is here. So range bound, 3 touches of overhead resistance, but with attempts a clear of the highs and a clear of the space that out. 2 alerts set, 141 and 159. Just trading view. I just make sure it sends notifications to as many places as possible. So I just set my triggers on here, Jimmy. So just on these two, for example. Okay, so that's FTM. So again, low priority. We don't have volume. The oscillator status is fine. We've got a few touches of the above resistance. Okay. So we've got the multiple taps, we've got the sideways range, but we don't have any volume, which is pretty key to us, and we don't have any divergences. So for us, this is a low ranking one. I don't want to cover link. I want to cover MTL once I get rid of all my shit on here. Okay, so again, I'll throw the question to you guys. What do you think of MTL on the daily Renko? Okay, yeah, so bad, I think you're right. Okay, so I think we had a big divergence down here. Okay, so all this move here. Big divergence, potential for a higher low here. That's a good spot, right? This is a good spot in this region here, the higher low. Now this divergence here, okay, if we follow textbook, okay, 100% textbook, that's finished. Divergence play out is complete. Okay, so we have this move up here from the divergence up. So we've already done a 2x on MTL. And this daily divergence could be seen as playing out. So I think what's important too is some of the other identification methods. So like this. So like bad realized here. This is potentially a higher low. And then as Brian's looking at, like if we're not looking at sort of super strong momentum, then I think we've got to potentially look for the possibility of any lower highs, right? So we know that this is an area of interest. Support, resistance, breakthrough, fail. So this is going to be another important area for us. So let's dive down to 4 hour. Okay, so what we have here is we have another pretty clear divergence down here on the 4 hour. Okay, higher low, lower low into this region, and then the bounce. But again, we've come up to this region here and the hull is looking at turning negative. Okay. And momentum has dropped off. So let's take a look on candle. So aside from this, okay, this level is pretty clean. This is the rejection. 200 EMA also factored into that. And then we've probably got another region, which is just here at 4770. RSI above 50. We're happy with the way that's moving. We've had relatively decent volume, nothing to shout about, but it's been relatively decent. We are consistently making those higher lows. Okay, so we've seen 3 instances of this now here. It's our low, it's our higher low, it's our higher low. So if we were just following typical structure here, right, our next assumption would be higher high. That would also be our third touch of this resistance. So for me, the important levels are this one here at 4770. Okay, resistance that has to be overcome. If this resistance is overcome, then we'd be looking at this 6,000 mark. Stop loss below that higher low, yeah. So here. The only problem that we've got is because of this, right? We've got a relatively long stop down, but I think that's sensible. I think this region here, 4770, I think I'd wait for a confirmation of a claim of this. What I'd want to see is this. Okay, and then hold. And then I can make a target of this. So we've got no divergences on AO. We've got the daily that's potentially already played out during this run up. But we have now come down and retested all of that, okay, back right down to the original breakout point here, and now we're grinding our way back up. So I'm going to put MTL in medium. We're looking pretty nice on the weekly on MTL as well. Like, pretty clear divergences here from the weekly. So I think that adds some confluence to our thought process in this region here. Nice sideways range again. Okay, so I think that makes sense to hop into this medium categorization. So 1 I'm already in, but let's take a look at 1, okay, to see some of that categorization. Okay, so 1 has a very clear 4-hour divergence. Okay, here to here, very, very clear. Okay, the daily is just grinding and grinding and grinding along. We are still diverging. Okay, from the lows, we are still diverging, but this is essentially one huge divergence right the way from the top to bottom. Momentum is fading. Okay, so we will see upside on this. There's a huge potential for upside for 1. Okay, this is like one of my favorites. Huge potential upside. I mean, like, if we just take it, right, this is the resistance. This is key resistance here at 118. Key resistance is in this region here. Once we start breaking through this, then it's pretty much just one region here at 218. Right? So there's a huge upside potential for 1. Absolutely high on the list. Daily, finally, this is the furthest up we've made it on the RSI. Okay, since summer this year, this is the highest up on the RSI we've made it. Like, there is definitely emphasis here. The major downside to 1, volume. Like, to the point you would have thought I'd taken it off the chart. Right? There's just nothing here. We start to see a little bit more volume when we come down to this level, especially in this portion of the range. And just again, your eye should be drawn to the amount of green volume in here. That's the really important thing for us, is look how the green just dominates all of this range. Like, your eye will catch the green much more than the red here. Okay, so that's always pleasing to see. We've cooled off pretty nicely. I wouldn't be surprised to see this go again relatively soon. And this is a nice support resistance flip area. Okay, so the downsides are that the volume is low in this region, and we're hoping that that improves, obviously, when we start to break out. But right now, as I said, big fan of this. It is indeed harmony. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly grab a drink. I'll be back in a few minutes. Time to go for a coffee. Everybody needs a break, huh? Man, why won't this Bible... Why won't this cell wall go off Ada? God damn. Look at his buy volume on the hourly as well. It's like a field of green. One's a really nice one. Find most of my alerts trigger. Care to explain the sell wall and buy wall? So this is the books on adder, right? These are the sellers and what they're asking, right? And then these are the buyers, and this is what they're prepared to pay. So what we have is obviously this is a cumulative total. So we have, for example, here we've got 3.1 BTC order at 525 for adder, right? We've got 4.32 at 526. We've got 3.8. Okay. Then on the sell side, someone's selling 0.47 of adder here, 532. Someone's selling 2. Someone's selling 10 BTC here. So what we see, obviously, for example, at 534, 10 BTC is a bigger order for buyers to try and push through and force price up, right? Because 10's a relatively chunky order to try and push our way through. Got 3 above that, right? And this is where you start to get a problem. Okay, so at 536, someone's selling 106 BTC worth of adder. Alright, so 20 million. So obviously you can see that this is a huge anomaly in this book. Okay, the average is probably about 3 BTC worth on the sell side, and the average is probably about 3 BTC worth on the buy side as well. So like this is a huge anomaly. So the reason that these are in place here, right? The reason that we see these totals like this is it's one of two things, okay? Either this is a legitimate sell, okay, and somebody just has a shed load of adder that they're happy with 536 being their sell point. So if we imagine, for example, let's say that they bought here, right, 422. It's a pretty good profit to be making, right? Especially on a huge quantity. So let's say that they were buying up on this wick, they bought this wick, and they just started adding lots of adder. So this could be their sell point, because this is still the resistance. Okay, so this could just be where they want to sell. The other thing that sell walls do is they help to maintain price. So they help to keep price in this range. Because we can't break through that, and the chances are that somebody's not going to buy 106 BTC worth of adder at resistance. Right? So the chances are that this isn't going to get bought out. So what this does is essentially it puts this wall on price. So it says you're not coming past here yet. So this can be done because they want to keep price in this region to continue buying up adder at this region. If we consider the next target for adder is around the 600, 610, 625 mark, right, there's still at least 20% markup from here. So by shoving this wall in play here and keeping price locked in this region, allows steady accumulation at this 520s level before this is pulled and we are allowed to move up the books. So walls like this are typically put in place to either suppress price, which is usually what happens. Okay, usually it's done as suppression. And then what we'll see is this order will disappear and price will be allowed to move back up again. Or in the slightly sadder version, this is legitimate and will pull back harder than this to allow more accumulation lower, and then this will disappear. But usually these huge anomalies of orders are basically there to suppress price until those who want more adder have got more adder, basically. The same when we see it on the buy side. Okay, like prices being like, say we had 100 and 106 down here. It's usually to keep price up at a higher price up here to allow short orders to fill. That's a very generic overview, but that's essentially what this is designed to do. It's designed to slow down the advance. Because I mean, like, this was 126 at the time, so it's had 20 BTC bought out of it. Shall I remove it? Nah, keep it there, man. It's cheaper adder for everybody. But adder's in such good shape. This is the first major to go. 100%. This is the first major to run. Okay, let's get back on because I need to start thinking about food. ONT. Okay, over to you guys. What are we looking at on ONT? Yep, nice and straightforward. Big fat bullish divergence. Okay, it's a really nice one to start with. Screen grab this for the document. I think already from my pre-existing knowledge of ONT, I think it fits into this category. Okay. So this is relatively interesting. What are the thoughts on the 4 hour? Yeah. So pretty strong bearish div on the 4, and it's confirmed. Okay. So we have this bear div, it's been confirmed, we'd expect to see some play out down. Okay, so armed with that information, daily bull div, bearish 4 hour. Okay, what can we determine from that? Daily bullish div, bearish 4 hour div. Okay, yeah, longer term bullish, short term bearish. So again, with that logic, when we swap to candle, what should we be looking for? Yeah, okay, cool, perfect. So we know what the situation is there. Let's take a look. Okay. So as I said, I know ONT relatively well. There's a very clear region here. Okay, that was resistance all the way through here. This is the China news. Okay, ONT is a Chinese coin. So this is the China news, and then this is the region here that has always been the previous resistance. We've got a divergence on the daily as well, so we are definitely looking for this to pull back. The 4 hour basically says I'm going to keep on going until I hit this. Right, and then we should see a bounce. So right now, the regions I'm interested in are essentially this red box. it's essentially down here. It's looking for a retest of this breakout, given the fact that we have divergences here. Now, the reason that I like this still being in high is because I want to actively chase those. Okay? We've had volume. Again, China given. But we've had volume. There's another reason why this fits into high priority for me, and it's because of this. Okay, so it is available on margin. So ONT is always a really nice one because I know that I can pop a bit of leverage on with Binance. Okay, so that's ONT. Relatively simple, relatively straightforward. We know that this is extended. The daily's telling us this is diverging. We're looking for a move down. Anything that comes into like this upper 700s is a buy for me. So it's upper 700s is a buy. Okay, but nice job in terms of the analysis. Okay, it's exactly what we should be looking at. PHB. Okay, yeah, bad, go. Go, go, go. Yeah, I always measure from candle tops. Yeah, I don't ever count wicks. The reason being is that that should be your go-to. So, like, if ever in doubt, just put online. Yeah. Yeah, I never take into account wicks. And as I said, the easiest way to draw divergences is to flick onto a line and do the same thing. Okay. Okay, so let's look at PHB. 4 hour says nothing. Okay, in fact, we already had the move from any divergence in this region. Okay, divergence all the way down here. Okay, here was the play out. Nice leg up. Okay, 2x in this region. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking at creating this higher low here. Okay, so we can see. Very similar to 1. Just one continuous divergence until we had this huge pop-up, okay, which we got there. Now retesting the hold from this side. So PHB is just in this lower range. Like, there's nothing like fantastic about it. I already have some PHB. Like, I already have some bought in. The hope for PHB essentially is that this rounds off, okay, and comes up here. Like, that's what I'm looking for. It's certainly not a high priority. The level up here is important, as is the level down here. Okay, as is the level slightly below that as well. So PHB becomes more attractive when it passes 75. Maybe even 76. So I'll set an alert there. But the hope is that this structure rounds off and comes back up. Forms the higher low in the process of rounding off. Okay, goes for the highs, and then this is set up really nicely. Like, this goes 2x in no time whatsoever. Okay, because just simply the pop up here okay, and clears this high as a 2x from current position. So this gives you 2x pretty damn quickly. RSI is rounding off as well nicely with it. Okay, starting to see this rounding off following price. Yeah, and then on a lower level, this here, right, is key. So like 74, so let's start here. I'm going to stick it in medium. Did I set it for 74? 77. Fuck. Okay. So that's PHB. Ren. Okay, Ren on the 4 hour. Obviously we can see that the last bearish divergence played out pretty beautifully on Ren. So the 4 hour doesn't really give much away, apart from that we've had the bullish flip again. The hull is now green, so they are two really good signs for us. Bullish AO, green hull. Daily doesn't really give much away. Okay, strong downtrend, recovering from that, but we have printed a bearish bar. We are above the hull. The daily, and like I always refer to Ren in the live streams as well because it's the same old story. RSI's cooled off really nicely. Okay. 4 hour says this could go lower. Okay, that's the interesting thing to note about this. Okay, below mid says this could go lower. So on the daily, this purple box is the key. Okay, it's been the support and resistance level across the entire history of Ren. This is the absolute key level. Within that, we've got a support and resistance region here at 600. Okay, resistance, resistance, breakthrough, support, support. And we're now back down in this purple box region, which we know has significance on the daily. With this continuing to move down, we could see more downside on this. If I'm trying to get a really, really dirty entry for Ren, it's here. Okay. So 571. The other thing that it would do, you could absolutely take an aggressive trade. 100%. Like, if you're going to take an aggressive trade anywhere, right? Take an aggressive trade at a daily support and resistance level. Like, absolutely no issue with that at all. Like, above the 200 EMA, okay? trying to use it as support, and this huge purple block is helping that. So absolutely, if you want to take an aggressive entry on Ren, this is perfect territory. Okay, this is stink territory, this is perfect. But what I'm looking for, okay, is something like this. That's what I'm looking for. If you wanted to stop loss this, like I would be looking for entry at somewhere in this region. If not, I'd be looking at stop loss in underneath. Like, not too far underneath here, because these are still the lows. So, like, if we come down here, then I do expect us to go deeper. But again, Ren is one of those assets that just trends, right? So, like, when this gets going, we're going to have a nice run. I'm sure Martin could tell us all the nice fundamental news on this as well. So Ren looks decent. I like the region it's currently in, but I want to be greedy. RVN. Bullish divergence. Okay, played out, come back down, now retesting the bearish side of this. 4 hour is about to flip bullishly. RVN, I'll hide this, right? RVN's just basically been caught. So RVN's just been caught here. This wick here, I think, was the bottom, right? It just wiped out the entire range, took everything out down to this very bottom level here at 266. Like, that to me is the bottom. Take care, Jimmy. So yeah, for me, I see this as the bottom. This is more accumulation here. And I think we do see another leg up. This is still holding, like, in terms of, like, the weekly. This is the higher low. Okay, so this is super important that this maintains the higher low. So I think that's kind of the main thing we'd say about this right now. So what are we looking for in RVN? Okay, well, first of all, we're looking for movement above here. Okay, so 335. Okay, so this is clear resistance right now. So any movement above here is probably a buy. So if I stick in a rough alert here, then what we're looking for is this. Okay, and then that's the long. So the long happens here, and then we ride that. So I've got this red box marked out because that is obviously, as you can see here, okay, is an area of supply. So this is the origin of the sell-off. So I'd expect us to come up here, test this, come back down, retest this, and then break out. I think that RVN is one of those it's very wise to own some of, especially if we enter a season where alts do well. It always performs well. Like this run up, like we won't see highs on it again. Like I don't think we'll see these highs. I certainly think it's possible that we'll see this region here, so 906. That's a 3x from here. And like that's a 3x even if we're waiting on confirmation. So there's no rush to get into these. But I do think that this is the target. All right. Okay, so let me stop there and take questions. I'm just thinking about my own personal schedule, about getting some food as well. So, if there's any questions that any of you guys have, now is the time to ask. And I'll give us 5 minutes or so, and I'll probably look at rounding off there, and then we can come back to this tomorrow when I'm back on stream to cover off where we got to, where we go from here, any movers, etc. It's alright, Brian, not a problem at all. As I said, thank you to you guys, because this this alt assessment was built into my day today, so I appreciate you guys giving me some company whilst I do that. So what I might do is come back. Maybe I'll come back a little later tonight. See if there's been any action. Maybe finish off there. Go get some food now. Finish off a little later tonight if there's been some movement, maybe in BTC or some of these pairs like ADA. I'd really like ADA to just do this now. Okay, like consolidate down here, hit this, and then go. So we can obviously see this region here. It's going to be important. So it'd be nice if ADA came down, retested, and then went again. Good, pleased. So let me round it off there. There's going to be plenty for people to get their teeth into in terms of this being an educational stream. I've got to be around when the market's open tonight anyway on traditional. So I will probably hop back on stream. Don't hold me to it, but I'll probably hop back on stream. But thank you very much, guys, for joining me for this good couple of hours of alts, and I will speak to you all a little bit later.